So for a coach like myself, and I'm sure there's many other coaches that are listening as well, what's the first step that we can help guide our athletes to understand? Because I feel like when I ask questions, a lot of time I just like basketball, right? I just play it because my friends play it. But you gave a great answer where it's like you love the physical, emotional challenge. I'm sure you love the competitive aspect of having a score at the end.
Yeah, so it's tough, right? And there's a phrase I've frequently been hearing, and it's one I've begun to really adopt, is meeting athletes where they're at. And so what does that actually mean? And some of meeting someone where they're at is maybe understanding you're not the one who can connect with them. And that's tough as a coach because you want to connect and you want to lead all your players. But when you realize and look back and reflect as a coach too, you have so many different levers you can pull, so many different people, right? So like for me, I know my spiritual lens isn't going to connect with every athlete. So I can't use that as a leading goalpost in how I coach athletes. But if I have an athlete who's very spiritual in their beliefs and it's differing from mine, we find that common ground. And then maybe I pull a lever of someone who I know has that same religious background who can help that person who's struggling with that in that moment. Right. And so for kids, 100%, it's like, why do you like basketball? It's like, well, I just like it. Right. Then it becomes, well, asking more targeted questions and learning more of that interview tactic. Like, hey, on a podcast, well, it's just asking the same questions out of curiosity for the kid. Well, it's like, well, maybe you like it because you like that one-on-one element, or maybe you like it because you get this feeling in your belly and you get real intense and it's the only time you feel strong, right? It's when you feel strongest. And just kind of learning to poke and pry and see what kind of answers you can get. Some athletes are very simple, right? They just are. They don't think deeper. They don't have that, deeper reasoning. And that's okay. It's just understanding that and then finding the levers to kind of pull the best performance out of them, finding what motivates them. Ask them, when do you have the most fun? When are you most driven? When are you most angry? Like, when do you want to hit something? And if you never want to hit something, well, it's like, well, when does something irritate you? Because at some point, everyone's going to be irritated. Everyone's going to be happy. Everyone's going to be joyful. Everyone's going to be sad. Everyone's going to experience some type of emotion. And it's understanding who experiences it and when.
Right. Yeah. So it's those targeted questions in terms of just really kind of continue to get to know them and what motivates them, like you said. And so when we kind of find out what motivates them, what are some certain action plans that you have worked with your athletes in terms of developing like a healthy kind of relationship with that identity where they love the physical challenge, the mental challenge, but they don't let the loss bog them down and get into sitting in pity, like you maybe talk about, because it's okay to feel frustrated and angry after a loss or after a performance, right? We don't want to be happy because we went 0 for 10 from 3 or whatever it is, right? But how do we make sure that it doesn't get wrapped up into our identity to where we bring that to the next game and the game after that?
Yeah, and I'm very much a believer you should care deeply about the outcome. Like, you should. Like, if you lose, particularly in a big game, and it doesn't affect you in some capacity, I might be a little concerned, right? Like, as a competitor, it should bother you. It should drive your action or drive change when you lose. It's just to be able to separate identity from outcome. You are more than just your outcome. And an analogy I heard once that I absolutely loved, it's like a surgeon who's doing surgery on someone. They put every bit of what they have into that surgery to make their patient better, curing whatever it is. But in the event that they can't cure that person, it's not their body, right? So our outcomes, our losses, our wins are not us, right? They're not who we are. Who we are is all the drive and effort and attention and energy we put into the outcome, but understanding that outcome is not always reflective of who we are. It's a part of our process.
Right. And it's also oftentimes a learning tool, as you alluded to earlier, of how we can continue to improve our processes.
Absolutely. And I think too, like, seeking feedback in win or loss is a skill set. It's very difficult to do. I just talked with a trainer who, is well known in the Pittsburgh area for training professional athletes, and I do some work with them. And we were talking about, like, what's the difference between athletes who get it and athletes who don't? And we reminisced over a few athletes who are always asking for feedback. We'll pick up the phone and call you, hey, this isn't going my way. How can I get better? Like, no sugarcoating, like, just tell me straight up, what am I not doing? What am I not seeing? How can I improve? And the younger that we can adopt that, the sooner, regardless again of outcome, and becoming, again, I don't like outcomes really important. Okay. Like, they are. At the end of the day, outcomes matter. But how we get better outcomes is being obsessed with feedback, being obsessed with taking action and finding the different pillars that come to performance in whatever field you're in. If we're talking about athletics, physical performance, mental performance, recovery, nutrition, diet, finding those pillars and always seeking feedback in those pillars and how you can get better, right? And doing that and becoming obsessed with that process is going to lead to more outcomes. It's just being able to understand that, like, the outcome itself is not indicative of who you are, and understanding, you're a son or a daughter, you're a brother or sister, you're an aunt or an uncle, some people, your parents, right? But even deeper than that, you're someone who is empathetic. You're someone who cares deeply about the work that you do. You're someone who's tough or gritty, right? And being able to understand that there's elements of you that can't be taken away regardless of the outcome.
Right. Right. And to tap into those as well, and just like recognize that those are very worthy roles in terms of belonging. Because I feel like a lot of times this is kind of what it stems from is, and you could probably share this as well when you were kind of transitioning out and talking about, again, referencing the sitting in pity, is like feeling like we belong. And I feel like that's one of the reasons we love sports so much. We feel like, even as fans, right, we talk about teams.
It's a sense
like
of community.
Right. It's a we, even though we're not even playing on the field, and some of us have never even been inside the stadium, but it's that belonging that matters so much.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest with you, after athletics, even sometimes in athletics, you're always searching for that community. And I actually just wrote a piece in my newsletter today. Is, I'm in that, like, lonely stage right now. I'm growing out of old circles and I'm trying to find new circles that I just haven't found yet. And I think as an athlete and as a person, you're always looking for a sense of community and the right people to surround yourself with. And to be honest, in today's society, it's never easier to reach out and find someone. And yet, to be honest, we are the most lonely generation ever. And I think, I don't want to, that could be a whole podcast episode in itself as to why that is. But that sense of community, at the end of the day, it's just finding the right people, finding the people who are going to push you to be a better version of who you want to be. And sometimes that's within your team. Sometimes it's outside of your team. When it's not people on your team, that's what makes it a little challenging. And when you leave the game, that's the hardest part, is remaining and finding new people.
No, and I think, kind of with that, and the athletes that I work with a lot of high school athletes, and they are, of course, we all know that they're on their phones more than ever. And I just feel like it's normal. Like, I'll share this little bit of a story in terms of, like, I was talking to some of my kids, and they were like, they play video games together, not in the same room anymore. Like, at least when I was playing, I'm not that old, right? So I had video games too, but we'd play video games together in the same room. But, like, he had said, like, that's weird if you play video games together in the same room, right? They're like on a mic headset, and, like, I guess they're talking, communicating. I guess it's probably a little better than texting, but just, like, finding that community and that in-person interaction is so important for athletes. I feel like this day and age, just to have the social skills to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's funny that this comes up in a lot of different conversations, but as coaches and parents, listening to this, and in general, we, again, goes back to meeting the athlete where they're at. Even my generation, and I'm young, I'm 28, like, we still didn't have these temptations. Like, have you guys ever put on a game console and seen how realistic some of this stuff is? Like,
It's crazy.
It's incredible. It's fascinating. And we didn't have those temptations. So it's like, even saying, like, that's stupid. Like, yeah, hey, maybe it is in our perspective, in the unique lens that we view the world. But from a kid who's grown up with it, that's real. Like, that's tempted and put in front of them every single day. So you don't have to completely obliterate it, right? And completely make the athlete feel unheard, but maybe limit and put some, like, restrictions. Like, hey, yeah, you can go play with your friends on the video game, but you better believe you better get your butt outside and go play. Right. And it's like having that balance. Right. And it's hard to always find balance. I actually don't like that word, but it's allowing for some of those things to go on, but being able to set limits that are effective and fair.
That makes a lot of sense. And I kind of, as I was hearing you talk about that, I know one of the things we wanted to touch on it is about kind of alleviating some of that pressure from a coach's perspective, because kind of staying on topic of, video games, right? Obviously, social media comes up quite a bit in this podcast, and just because the likes and the comments and the followers, that is a big part of this generation's ego, and even probably to a certain extent our own. Pretty comfortable with, I don't really care to a certain extent, right? I mean, I don't want to have zero,
Right.
but with this generation, it really matters to them. And so as coaches, how can we help alleviate some of that pressure that comes from social media and ego, and just like that performance, the pressure to perform?
It's a great point, right? And I don't think there's a clear cut answer. I think the clearest cut answer is just don't engage. In our world, we can't do that, right? Like, to be honest, like you said, you don't want zero. The truth is, we both care, right? Because our podcast and our businesses likely depend on it to some type of degree. So it's less about the likes in the retweets or the repost, and maybe more of understanding what those signify, right? So if I make a post, right, it's not that I want the likes for the sake of the like. It's that I want to know that I'm making a better impact, or it's resonating with more people. And to be honest, at some point, it can facilitate business opportunity, right? And that's okay. Like, that is okay to want those things. It's okay to want to be liked. It's just learning kind of where to draw that line of where that like or post is distracting from who you actually are, right? And so, again, coming back to identity, it's, hey, am I posting something because I actually want some type of gratification? So, like, if I post something that's popular political on one side or the other because I'm trying to pander to a certain demographic of people, even though I don't believe in it, that's what's going to harm you. That's what's going to hurt you, right? Or if it's posting, some type of picture activity because I want to make, particularly like young kids, right? I want to make my significant other jealous, and I want to get all these likes, and then I don't get it. Then it's like, oh, that hurt me. When it's, if you can put intention and a reason behind your post, and still it's okay to want those likes and use it as a test to be like, okay, well, what's resonating with others? Or again, describe reason X why you're posting, and then use it just kind of as it is, right? Or posting for a purpose, like to connect with someone. Like, hey, I might post a picture of my family because I want people to know what's going on in my life, people that I haven't connected with in a while. And you'd be surprised how many people will just reach out of nowhere when you post something that resonates with them. So just kind of changing and putting intent behind everything that you do, and doing everything on purpose with good intent. And then you can kind of navigate the like and retweet world. In general, I do think social media, it can be pretty toxic. But if you learn how to curate your environment to be things that you enjoy or things that uplift you, then you can kind of start to get past those likes and engagement piece.
Right. And honestly, as I hear you talking about that, I feel like that could be that could be a really powerful workshop. And I'm curious, have you done that for your athletes in terms of like helping them curate that? Because I'm like thinking, because they're going to be on it no matter what.